Welcome, Panos. It's a pleasure to see you again and to talk with you. We have done a beautiful series of conversation, and here we are again, just to dive into the one that you have in mind for us today. So please take it up from here.
Hi, David. Yeah. Look, just again to recapture what we've been doing. We've been exploring in a very, I want to say superficial, but in a very quick way. We haven't spent hours and hours going into things, okay? It was just something to give whoever's watching this an idea, a taste of what's possible, okay? And it's also important to remember, so in other words, to avoid creating some confusion, all what we're doing is already in this case, your mind, because you're the one answering the questions. In other words, it's not something that has some metaphysical reality. It may or may not, we don't know. But what is a fact? If I say to you, hey, listen, what do you see in your mind? Say, I see a cat. What is it doing? It's eating a lizard. That is coming out of your mind, okay? That's real in the extent that it's coming from you. So another thing, riding on the last video that we did, it's something that's worth mentioning is this. It's important for the audience to know that memories, okay, the memories that we have are malleable, they are changeable. The scientific work shows that every time you recall something, you change it. In fact, perhaps this is why it's nice talking to friends or relatives or your grandmother about what happened. Because when you talk about it with them, they provide a different experience because they might laugh at it, they might ask you questions about it, puts you in a different state, which then changes the structure of the memory, which makes you feel better, okay? So the very accounting of memories, just saying the same thing over and over, will cause the memory to change. I think you mentioned it also, but it's true. In legal cases, people keep asking questions, and eventually the person gets confused because the questions may instill or put in details that were not there before. Anyhow, we're not going there. All I'm saying is that by just talking about stuff, you're changing the structure of your brain. That's a fact. So what we want to do today is go the other way, which is something that very few people do. Now, first I'll give you a practical scenario. Okay, imagine this. Supposing you have a group of executives and they're being paid a lot of money to do strategic planning. And you say to them, listen, what do you think will happen in 10 years? Now, what does a person do? If someone asks you that, you go, well, they look inside their mind, as it were, just like you did with the cat, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't see the video 10 years from now. Or maybe I don't know, maybe they see nothing. Maybe they see some stuff. Now, in South Africa, this happened in 98. There was a group of people, mostly from politics, who got together to decide whether the local electricity department needed more capacity. And they looked in their mind, they saw nothing, and they said no. Sure enough, 10 years later, we ran out of electricity. What I'm saying is there can be severe consequences if a person doesn't realize that what they perceive as the future is their own construct. Okay? So that's the premise. So we want to take a shot and see what happens with you, as the subject in this case. If we go out looking for the future, what are you going to find? And my job, as usual, is to ask you the questions and see what we come up with. Okay, so to get the ball rolling then, if I say to you, can you think of something that's coming up next week? Some particular thing, like an event that you know next week something's going to happen.
Next week, huh? Yes.
I mean, yeah. What is it? What are we talking
about?
Oh,
it's a call that I'm having with somebody from the United States. Yeah.
So there's a specific person who's going to call you next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you think about this in your mind, where is it?
Well, I see it on my right side, up above on my right side. Yeah.
Right enough. Okay, fantastic. Let's go a little bit further down the line. Okay, let's say, I don't know, are you expecting something in the near future, like a month or two from here? Is there something in your mind that you know is coming?
Well, at this point, it's all suspended. But yes, I think there should come up something in a couple of months. Yes.
Okay. Specific thing.
Yes.
Okay. So and how far in the future is that?
It's September.
September, great stuff. So when you think of that specific event in September, which is like 3-4 months down the road, mm-hmm. Where is that in your mind?
Well, it's on the same side, but a little lower. Yeah, a little okay. Lower than the other one.
Is it on the same side at the same distance, or lower and further away? or closer, whichever way.
Yeah, well, now that we talk about it, might seem a little distant, a little more distant.
A little more distant. So a little bit more distant, further, and lower. Okay, fine. Let's go a little bit further. Let's say Christmas, December, yeah? Christmas. Christmas, I assume, is something we celebrate in Italy, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you think of Christmas, where is that in your mind?
I think it's on my same level, kind of, but further. It's like as if he's on a timeline straight out of my eyes. Yeah.
Going out into the fantastic. So just by these three questions, we're getting a trend. We're getting an idea that, hey, for you, the future is to the right, and it's sort of, if it's near future is high, as it gets further into the future, it's going lower and lower, but further away. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that
yes,
clear?
very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, first of all, it's really important to recognize, hey, hang on a minute, this is a very useful way for everybody, in this case you, because we're talking, but the audience as well, to recognize, hang on a minute, hey, I've got a structure in my brain, in my mind, whatever it is, which I can use to go and look there, which we will do in a minute. So the first thing we've established is that it's almost like you've got a different sense. You've got seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, plus this new sense of identifying future events. You can also look at past events, but now we're looking future. Okay. So if I were to say to you, and this is something that you have to answer intuitively, there's no logical way to answer this, okay? If I were to say to you, how far into the future would it be useful and appropriate for you to go and visit the Davide there in the future in order to get the best advice for the present? I mean, the present being the COVID and all that kind of business. How far would you have to go?
I think around 5 years, 5 or 6 years from now.
5 years?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So now, here comes the question. 5 years from now, given what you've said already, in your mind, how far is 5 years from where you are in your mind? And where is it? How far?
I think is in front of me, but quite far. I see just the shape of it, but it's rather far. Yeah.
Okay. So let's check a few things. We don't want to make a mistake here. This is really important. If you say to me, I want to go and visit 30 years into the future, the chances are it will be so far away that you can't see it from where you are.
Right.
In as much as if I say to you, I don't know, wherever you are, how far can you see? Well, I can see 3, 5 blocks down the road. I can't see Rome. You know what I mean? Why? Because the earth is curved. Okay, something like that. In which case, we would have taken an approach, for example, going higher and higher so we can see further and further. The way you spoke now, it seems like 5 years may not be clearly visible, but at least in the distance you can see it.
Yes.
Is that fair? Am I saying the right thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. Now, again, as I was saying before the recording started, the best way, if we were out in a park somewhere or on the beach somewhere, we could have walked there. But we are constrained because we have a room and all the rest of it. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is you choose which way you would like us to mentally travel. Would you like us to fly there? Should we take a walk there? Should we ride a bicycle? I don't know, ride an elephant? I mean, how would you magic carpet?
Well, given that, one of the things that I've seen about these memories and things that, these things in the future that we're talking about, I've seen all black around and just the kind of a square, it's kind of a in the computer. I don't know why, probably because I'm being in calls, for a long time for these 2 months. So I see in front of me and I see I can zoom in, that thing rather than just, it's like, come closer by zooming in.
Oh, okay. So you can zoom it in. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Now, remember, this is your preference, your natural response. Some other person might not zoom in. So there's different ways. I'm just saying. So you like zooming in? Fantastic. So now here's what I'm going to ask you to do. What I'd like you to do is to zoom into that 5-year future spot, but far enough for you to be able to get an idea. Okay. And the first thing you want to do, ask the person permission. Davide in the future is living his own life, right? Suddenly you're going to show up from the present and say, hi, I'm Davide from 5 years ago. Do you mind having a discussion? In other words, you don't just shop up. So take it easy. Hi, get permission. If that Davide in the future says, yes, come along, then you go there. Then I will ask you more questions. So let's do that first.
So one question though, do I get in that memory and then I ask him, or do I ask him before getting in the memory?
You said you're zooming in. This is
Yeah.
why. Let me give you the alternative, and you do it your way, right? If we were walking there,
Hmm.
we would go walking. Let's say we're walking along the beach, and the future is, let's say, 100 meters down the road. So we start walking, walking, walking. When we get to about 10 meters away from the actual future spot,
Okay.
then you and I stand there, and you communicate with the future Davide and say, "Hi, I'm coming from the past. May I approach? Is it okay? Can I come into your house?" Kind of thing, right?
Right.
And then depending on what happens, you continue. So
All
whichever
right.
way you want to do it, you do it.
All right. So let me think about it real quick. Okay.
Okay, do yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened? Did you say, and what was, I mean, how did it go?
Uh, Basically, what happened is I got close. I got the attention because he was busy doing some other things, and once
Ah,
once he turned around and I asked permission, there was a smile, kind of a smile, and all
okay.
right, a kind of intrigued smile from the other side, saying, "Okay, come
Okay.
in, sure, yeah."
Okay. So now there's another problem. For you to physically go into the future, I mean, imagine there's like 5 years of cell, if you to do it physically, there will be 5 years of cellular adjustment.
Mm,
So I want you to approach that future spot slowly. Don't jump in. Just kind of approach it and feel as you're going there what it feels like to be stepping into a future place.
mm,
Okay? So
mm,
even though you're doing it mentally, be conscious of the fact that it feels a certain way going into the future, right?
mm,
So I want you to be mindful of that. As you approach him, please
mm,
do. And then
mhm.
once you're there, we'll continue the conversation.
Okay. Mm.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Now, the first thing is, as okay, just again say hi. I don't know what you would say to yourself. Okay, so just like establish rapport, as we say. Like say hello. Whatever happens, I'm from the past. I've come here. We're doing an experiment. Whatever you want to say, right? Just get the guy at ease. So he must kind of feel more than intrigued. He must be participative.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first thing, that I'm going to ask you is, what is it that you can see being in the future that Davide back there in the present cannot see? That's the first question.
Do I ask what I
You
see?
can discuss with him. Yes, you can
Okay.
discuss with him. Well, yeah. I mean, you're doing this together now, so you've got him
Yeah.
on your side, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you ask him and say, listen, what is it that me over there 5 years into the past, I wasn't able to see, but you now 5 years down the road, you can see clearly. What is it? What am I missing?
Mm, mm. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Is there a response?
Well, it seems to be at least what the other person said, which was me down there. Uh, there
Uh-huh.
was some kind of unawareness. I that 5 years before, I was not aware of the the size of the things I was getting into. Of the
Ah,
size of
okay.
things, of the
Wow.
yeah, of the the dimension. It's like he told me, you were doing something that has value now, but you didn't know what you were doing back
What you're getting involved with. Okay,
there.
okay. Is this useful information?
It is in some ways, yes. It is in some ways, yes. Yes,
Okay.
it's kind of common to my way of being. I mean, I can recognize myself because I get into
Uh-huh.
things and then I discover how precious
And
they are.
then, right.
Yeah.
But there's a pattern. There's
Yeah,
a
there's
good.
a
So it's not
pattern that
on
I know
purpose.
in my past is
Okay,
similar to that.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Right. Now, the other thing is, when you look at him, what does he look like
Oh,
compared to how you are?
he's in a suit, Skinner,
Ah, okay.
and
Oh,
he's about to get. I met him in a training room, and he's about to get on, and the room is very interesting because there's a smart screen. There's a lot of
okay.
technology in it. Yet there's a people that will, come in, and
Fantastic.
the suit was brown. There's like a very, very clean cut, and I look in
Oh,
shape much more than I am right now.
wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. That's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to ask you, therefore, before we return, because we have time constraints, we could have spent an hour there or longer, but for now, what I'm going to ask you is ask him permission
Mm.
if you can go and step into his physical space. So you kind of go and step into his body, as it were, and get a good feeling of what it's like. Ask him permission. If he says yes, do it again. Take your time. Don't jump in. But take a moment to get a good feeling what it feels like to be that guy 5 years from now, in shape, in a brown suit, etc.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, is there anything that he needs to be reminded of that he might have forgotten over the 5 years? In other words, let's say, for example, when you were a child, you had a certain innocence. 20 years later, you might have lost it. Is there anything you need to remind him to not be forgetful of being in the future? Do you have to give him a gift, in other words?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a balance. There's an exchange. He gives you the future. You give him the benefits of the past. Everybody's happy. Yeah. Okay. Now, when you have this feeling of having stood inside him, looking back to Davide in the present, 5 years into the past, right? We're going to go back there now. Okay. So when you're ready, you tell me.
I am ready.
Okay. So let yourself be transported backwards in time, as it were, and bring yourself back into the present. And when you're ready, you let me know.
Okay.
Okay. So how do you feel?
Well, the moment I stepped into his shoes. There was a very interesting feeling. It was a feeling of, there was a feeling of boldness and tranquility, both together. That it's funny, but I felt that way, and so it was very interesting to see that there was the presence, which was much bigger than I have right now, and very tranquil. I mean, he was about to do a work, but he was very tranquil about himself, and so that was very interesting for me to see, to enjoy.
Okay. Okay. So now, as you're standing in the present, as you are, or sitting, doesn't matter. When you look out to him 5 years, how do you feel about the future?
I feel like there's something like a gift coming, something like that. Like when you're expecting a gift, and
so when you wake up in the morning and you know 5 years is going to be like this, you kind of like, whoa,
well, I
rock
like
and
that.
roll, ready to go.
I like that.
Yeah. Now, this is really good, by the way. This is really good. However, to be fair to a general audience, we don't know who the people are. We don't know why they're watching this. They may be watching this. It's really important to stress. If anybody were to try and do this, I don't recommend you doing it on your own, because you need someone to ask you the questions. But be mindful. In your case, you had a good experience. Hallelujah, right? But people can step into all kinds of craziness. I had a gentleman once who stepped into his own death in his mind, right? And so we had to do all kinds of stuff to keep him normal, as it were. So what I'm trying to say, therefore, is don't always expect. In your case, fantastic. You went 5 years, the guy's chilled, he's competent, he's cool, he's relaxed, he's in shape, fantastic. You came back, you brought the feeling, you look into the future and think, wow, this is a great future, I can't wait to get there, kind of thing. All good. But just remember, for the audience's sake, it is possible to step into all kinds of crazy stuff. If that's the case, phone me.
One thing, but I understand that.
5363494 done. In South Africa.
One of the things I believe, though, I mean, it is a projection. I can tell that's also a desire mixed into to what I
Fair
saw.
enough.
So it's my brain building it up, and probably there is a part of it. I might be dead in 5 years. Who knows? But the point
No,
is
no,
that
no, wait. No, wait. Hang on. This is what you're saying is really important. I just want to make sure that we say it like as best as we understand at the moment, because science progresses, right?
right.
The way we understand things at the moment, and for the audience sake, there's a wonderful guy called Anil Seth. I've mentioned him before. He's in a university in the UK doing a lot of interesting work. According to him and various other researchers, not just him, there's many, he will mention them if you go look him up on YouTube. What is happening to us right now is what we call your brain's best guess of comparing whatever sensory input comes in versus what the brain thinks is going on. Putting those two together, you get a constructed present. There's no such thing as the present. It doesn't exist, because the amount of time that it takes for the signals from the eyes, from the ears to go in and get processed and project what you call my day now takes at least between 200 and 400 milliseconds. Nothing happens in real time. There's always this delay. So even the conversation we're having is a construct. So it's no different from seeing, as it were, the future, or seeing, as it were, the past. It's all constructed, okay? The key component here is that by looking 5 years into the future, first of all, in your mind, 5 years is real. It's like, hey, it's over there. Secondly, it's something to look forward to. Oh yeah, that guy's great. Now imagine if you were Chinese or some other nationality and you're doing a 500-year plan. And you'll be long dead. No question about it. It is possible to even go and visit, right, that far down the road and get advice from those people as to what I'm trying to say. This is actually quite an interesting strategy for people who do strategic planning, for people, young people looking what to do for their careers. I mean, children, for the mother to look forward and say, okay, well, how should this child do engineering, or I don't know, cooking or something, whatever. What I'm saying is this is a strategy. We're playing a game, but at the same time, it's serious. It's an important strategy for people to be aware of, that the future already exists in their mind as a construct, in the same way as the present and the past. And visiting and interacting with it, self-fulfilling prophecy, that story?
Yeah? Of course, yes.
So in your mind now, having seen this, aspiring to it, having the feeling that draws you to it, you've now shifted all your energies, whatever you want to call it, in that direction.
Yes.
So from that point of view, the self-fulfilling prophecy of this future is very likely.
Yeah.
So you've increased the odds. The probability of this happening has now gone up because you've interacted with it. It's more real. It's not some cloud in the sky kind of thing. This is really important. So yeah.
Sure.
So that's it. Now, if we have, I don't know how much time we have, if we can spend another 3 minutes, literally, right? What I would ask you is, remember we saw the cat swallowing the lizard, then we saw the little boy having a problem, now we saw this guy in the future. If I were to say to you, out of all these experiences or any other, doesn't matter, you can choose one if you like. What would you say was the most difficult time that you can remember in your life?
Between the ones we explored, or in any the most difficult time.
Yeah, the time you thought, shit, I'm going to die, or some terrible thing. Which was the hardest?
It's funny because you're talking with a man that had like 5 or 6 lives. So,
wonderful.
I've had, in one of my lives, I've had somebody, wanting to kill me, really kill me, So I remember that time.
Did it affect you? Did you feel bad? I don't care what the other guy was doing. When did you feel the worst?
What happened to me was that I was aware that these people could find me and kill me. I was aware of that, but it was like I was around my 20s. I was very young, And so the thing that came from those times is really that I still have around me, to look around and see what I am and see who's around, and to map in the territory wherever I go, So since I travel a lot, I'm always very aware of what people do around me, even if they don't interact with me. And I think that came out of that time, very much aware of my security.
Okay. What I would like you to pick out, choose one, is the time in your life where you felt the worst. Not what happened. What happened doesn't matter. Something that made you feel, when have you been at your lowest, the worst day of your life? You don't have to discuss it. You just got to think it. Oh yeah, I know it was that one. Call it A. I don't care what. I don't want the story. I just want you to recognize. Yes, that was the worst that I ever experienced.
It might be funny, but I don't identify one specific that was much worse than others. I mean, I have like 6 or 10 times in my life in which I've felt like that, like.
Okay, well, pick one of those 6 then. It doesn't matter. Just for the sake of this exercise, it's really important that you
Okay.
choose at least one. Otherwise, it becomes too complicated.
Okay.
You can have 6, but one is. See, unfortunately, we're doing through a computer. If we were standing next to each other, it would have been easier. But
Right.
choose one.
Okay.
Okay, you got one. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now I want you to choose the best you've ever been.
Mhm.
Whether it was the guy in the future or some other time, like you were like on top of the world. Yeah, you were really like, wow. In yourself, not what happened, how you felt.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? Now, if we were doing this properly, I would have noticed where you mentally saw the worst and where you mentally saw the best. I would have been paying attention to where you're looking and how you experience this, right? Then I would have taken you at a point 90 degrees from them. In other words, step back from both. I'm going to ask you to do it now. I'm going to say, Davide, you know what? I want you to adjust your mind so that you can see Davide in his worst state and at the same time, Davide in his best state. Can you do that from where you're sitting?
Yeah.
Some people can't. Make sure you do it. If you can't do it, we have to do something else.
No, I got it.
Can you see them together?
You sure?
Okay. Now I want you to look at them. You know what the word soft eyes means?
No.
When you don't focus, you look with your eyes and you see everything. You don't look at something. You don't focus on anything. You look at something with your full peripheral vision. You just look at everything.
Yes.
It's called soft eyes. You don't focus on anything. So you want to see one Davide and the other Davide together at the same time.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. As you're doing that, I want you to answer this funny question. If that's the worst that you can see yourself as, and that's the best you can see yourself as, what are you looking at these 2 people, let's call them, as? What are you that is able to see both of them at the same time? What are you? As what are you looking?
You're saying who am I that is looking both, or who am I in?
Well, I'm not saying who am I is one way of putting it, but who am I implies Davide. It implies a person. I'm saying maybe it's not even a person. What, I'm going to try and put it in words because the computer is a bit of an impediment here, but what is it that is capable of seeing the worst and the best together at once? What is it? How does it feel, first of all?
Oh, okay. It feels, I think the first thing that emerges is the vulnerability in the worst moment and the tranquility in the best moment. Like vulnerability versus tranquility. That I can see that. In fact, the worst moment, funny enough, I was in bed, kind of all wrapped up, and the best moment, I was, kind of enjoying what has already happened. So just kind of being there and enjoying, just looking at the result of what I've done. So the worst moment was like kind of retracting, and the other one was more like enjoying what just happened. So I believe the sensation.
So when you look at those 2 together, what happens?
I think that they are. I think that both of them are the same. In some ways, there is the same. It's not one thing that came to mind when I was doing that is that it is the same person with the same gifts in different moments. So it's just a moment that changed, but the person, I can recognize the same person in both experiences.
So as you see this, as you recognize this, what are you looking as? In other words, you have to be something that is capable of seeing the worst and the best at the same time. So you can't be the worst and you can't be the best because you're seeing them over there. They're like out there somewhere, right? If you are seeing both of them at the same time, what are you doing the looking. Who are you then?
One thing that came to mind
Look.
when you were asking the question is like it's not a it's funny to explain, but it's kind of a spirit above that knows everything. You know, it's kind of
Yeah,
a
yes.
and there's no attachment to neither of those situations. There's more like
Ah,
a description
yeah,
to both.
right, right. Now, this is so important. It's like out of all the things we've done, this little moment is like, oh, wait a minute. This is true for every moment of my life.
Mhm.
If I'm having the worst situation, I'm still I would use different words, doesn't matter. I'm the spirit above that is aware of this thing, and I'm not attached to it. If you're watching the best, you have a choice. Either you become identified with it, or you maintain this double awareness. Now, I'm going to say this, which I don't normally like to do, but I know you enough to say. Would you say that it's true that the unpleasant one is more likely to bring you to the space of I'm the spirit? In other words, to dissociate, or is the pleasant one? Which one is the easiest one to get to this neutral place from? To?
Well, I really don't know how to answer that because I could come to this place from both areas. Yet obviously the best one was more pleasant, the other one was more painful. But at the same time, I think um, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like the one the bad one is what made up the good one also. You know, it's like they're so intertwined, the two experiences, they're so
Yes,
intertwined to each other.
the
And I
bad one
believe,
has value.
yeah, no, and I believe even the time that I went to the 5 year, you know, when I went to the 5 year person, the gift that I could give that person
Mhm.
is never to forget
Yes,
the difficulties,
yeah,
you know, because see, if I keep the difficulties in mind, I know that I'm going to enjoy more the pleasant moments and be more tender to embrace whatever comes,
exactly.
and not just to get rigid and control freak and all that. So you know, I think
Exactly.
both sides are very precious to me. You know, even the worst
So,
one is precious.
uh-huh. So there's a nightmare, as it were, and there's a very pleasant dream, okay? But there's also waking up.
Right.
So this moment where when you're looking at both of them together, this is important. If you look only the one, only the other, doesn't happen. You have to create soft eyes. You can't be focusing. You have to see them. Oh, wait a minute. This is a different place altogether.
Mhm.
I'm neither this, neither am I that. You know, in India, for example, they have this strange tradition where they have a picture. India, they have, I don't know, 300 million gods. Okay. So in India, gods are something else. But one of them, he's pictured like this.
Mm.
And they say, and you can do this afterwards, and the audience can try it at home, right? If you put your hands in front of your eyes and you don't, imagine the hands in front of my eyes, right?
Right.
And I'm looking forward. Everything that I see with the corner of my eye, I cannot be cross. I
Mm.
cannot be angry at whatever I'm looking with the corner of my eye. I can only be angry if I look like this. But if I look soft eyes, you can't be angry.
Mm.
This is some peculiar game you can play.
Mm. Mm.
It has practical applications
Mm.
in martial arts environments. There's a whole lot of training people do. You've mentioned it already because of something that happened. You have special awareness and all that.
Mm.
But for our discussion, it's really important for the audience to take this home, okay,
Mm.
which is I've seen the worst, I've seen the best, but when I see them together, I'm neither of them. I'm something bigger.
Mm.
And that is the point of freedom.
Mm.
There you can choose. Should I do this? Should I do that? Or when this happens, oh, okay, I'm the viewer. This is the movie. The next movie will come, and so on. So this position of, I call it position of choice,
Mm.
or position of being. If you want to be religious, we can use other words. But the point of the matter is, it's everyone's common experience, but we're not used to it because we never see the worst and the best together. We only see the one, we identify with that. We see the other, we identify with it. I'm saying, whoa, there's a neutral ground. And that's the last thing that
You
I
know,
think we can end the
one thing,
series on
yeah.
that note.
Well, one thing I want to tell you as you were talking, and as I went back to the worst days, which is not just that one, as I told you, I have many of those, but whatever was very helpful for me to think in those moments was like, I'm going to wake up one day at home and think about this as a memory. You know, every time I had a bad moment in which I was deeply in, you know, like I was in the pit of it, my intentional thought was, I will wake up in the morning in my bed and remember this as a memory, you know. And in some ways it's like not only detaching, but it's like, okay, I either die or I will wake up in my bed one morning thinking about this, you know. So and that would give me a lot of you know, energy to be able to face whatever was happening in the moment. So, you know, that's kind of an
You
interesting
see,
memory that I
in
didn't
the
think about.
context that we've been in the context that we've been discussing regarding the crisis, the COVID virus, the future, the economy, all these things, right? I think it's really important for whoever's listening to this, and even in the future when this disaster is over, right? Other things will come up. The point of the matter is, irrespective of what we say, it'll either be wonderful or it'll be horrible, or something in between. The point is, the key mechanism here is, if you become so, you know, completely associated with the movie of the moment, which is the opposite of being in the moment. We're having a different discussion now, but being completely lost in what's happening. There's no humanness in that. You are not exercising the part of your brain that's human. You're down the road of automatically, like a robot, right? And if you take AI into this equation, the human side of humanness is this ability to dissociate and say, oh, okay, I can see this, I can see that, I'm bigger than that. I'm the awareness, if you like, which is capable of perceiving. You must remember, consciousness, the word consciousness is the final frontier in science. Nobody can tell you what it is. There's no conclusion. People are going around in circles. They have hundreds and one theories. One theory is that everything is conscious, not conscious in the sense that you and I are, Panos, you, David, and all that, but a chair is aware of the fact that it's a chair, but not thinking I am a chair. Anyhow, at the level of frequencies and all kinds of other things. But the point is, it's really important to recognize that there's something in us which is so mysterious. You know, some people have called it God, doesn't matter, that is capable of being aware of its own being. Even the answer was, I'm being, in the original Greek. The English, they've changed, they called it I am that I am. Oh, okay, too many words. The original Greek is one word, on, which means being. I am being, not the being, I am being. Being spoke. The universe spoke to Moses, not one person. Anyhow,
yeah.
So this little experiment that we've done,
Thank you very
I hope the
much.
experience stays with you.
Yeah,
It's a moment of wow.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you very much. And I believe that that connects a lot with something that I've always thought about, you know, being part of a movie that somebody else scripted for you, or being the director of your own movie, that you can actually give yourself a part in it, and you can snap out of the part. So I believe it's quite interesting and quite intriguing. So thank you, Panos, so far for these, and I probably will hear you again, you know, for on different topics. I just started a new playlist on the new normal, and we might be able to have conversations about that and questions, explore things like that. But for now, I really thank you for this, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Panos.
Thanks, David. Ciao.